I turn now to my other friend and colleague, the one, the only man who's not here right now. I think you're back in Florida, Mr. Benjamin Shapiro.
Yes, Michael Knowles, I am in the best state in America. We're still doing America. We're going to do America for 4 years. I've not tired of the winning. Donald Trump lied to me. He promised me I would tire of the winning. I've not yet tired of it. In fact, I am enthused by it. I was telling friends this morning, Michael, that, I have this growing feeling in the pit of my stomach. It's either indigestion or optimism. I've never experienced optimism before. And so this is an unfamiliar sensation for me.
To be safe, let's just assume it's from all the popcorn and the jelly beans at backstage. It has to be the indigestion, right?
It might have been that.
Before I let you go, Ben,
it definitely could be that.
Do you have any predictions for this Rose Garden press conference from Biden?
I mean, it's going to be amazing when he declares himself the first female president, just as like the last dig at Kamala. It's like, you know what? On my way out, you took me out. So I think that it's going to be the most passive-aggressive press conference pretty much ever, right? I mean, he's going to come out. He's going to make some sort of statement about how we believe in the peaceful transition of power, like the same kind of nonsense that she was spouting the other day when she conceded yesterday. But I do think that there are going to be some backhanded slaps at Kamala Harris and her campaign because he is pissed about it, and they are dumping all of this in his lap again. Mm-hmm. They foisted him out of his nomination, and now they're trying to blame him for her losing, and he's ticked off as hell about it. So that's what I'm here for. I mean, I've already vowed publicly that any book that is written by a Kamala Harris campaign insider, I will read. I will devour those. That's my junk food, right? Those are like soap operas. Like my wife with British romantic TV. Like that's my jam. I mean, I will just read that. I will all day long. So I'm very eager for this press conference. It's supposed to happen any moment, which means that it'll probably happen about 2 hours from now, since Joe Biden has never shown up on time for a press conference at any point. But Michael, we're going to let you go, and we're going to go ahead and start a good show now. So it's been good to see you here.
Wait a second. All right. Good to see you. Good to see you, Mr. Shapiro. Good to see all of you out there.
And enjoy more cigars.
Internet land. I'm Michael Knowles. This is the Michael Knowles Show. We will see you tomorrow.
Yeah, go do that. All right, folks. Well, America has elected Donald Trump as the 47th president. We're marking at the moment with a 47 of our own. Use code TRUMP to get 47% off a new annual Daily Wire Plus membership. Go to dailywire.com/subscribe. Join us with this exclusive offer. So we are currently awaiting the president of the United States. I know. Remember that guy? Remember him? I know you don't. Right? But you remember his name is Joseph Robinette Biden. And if you recall, he was the actual nominee for the presidency from the Democratic Party until, unfortunately, he suffered brain death on stage with Donald Trump, at which point they shoveled his now maggot-infested corpse out the back door. But he's still the president, which is super weird. So yesterday, Kamala Harris, she did a concession speech to Donald Trump. We'll get into that in a little while. And today we are expecting that Joe Biden at some point will wobble out, presumably on a walker with the tennis balls on it, in order to make some sort of statement about Donald Trump having defeated everyone around him, but not him. And it's going to be fun. I mean, I'll admit I'm up for it because the recriminations have begun between Team Biden and Team Harris, and it is delicious. I have publicly vowed that I will read any book, any piece, anything about the absolute crap show that was the Kamala Harris campaign. I am here for it. I want to hear about how Joe Biden wrecked all of this by not stepping out early. I want to hear from Joe Biden's team about how Kamala Harris is an absolute trash heap of horror at politics and how her campaign was run like just absolute clown car nonsense. I want to hear all of it. I want to hear how much they hated each other. I want to hear how Jill couldn't stand Kamala, but was kind of fond of Doug. I want to hear like every bit of gossip. This is my Gossip Girl. I'm here for every single moment of it. I've been waiting for it. I'm enjoying all of it. Honestly, the amount of winning that I'm currently experiencing, I don't think I can tire of it. And so that is the first promise that Donald Trump has made that he has not kept, in my view, is that he promised I would be so tired of the winning that I would be tired of the winning. I'm not yet tired of the winning. I require more winning. The demand for winning continues to increase even as the supply of winning increases. Supply must be increased of winning in order to meet demand. Speaking of winning, the Republicans are poised to keep control of the House of Representatives after winning the Senate. So there are a couple of bad news pieces, apparently, according to sort of the latest counts in Nevada, the latest count in Wisconsin. It looks as though the Democrats may retain the seats in both Wisconsin. I think Wisconsin has been called at this point against Eric Hovde in favor of Tammy Baldwin. Nevada is still unbelievably tight. That one may go to a recount, considering how tight that particular race is between Sam Brown and Jackie Rosen. However, Republicans, even without those two seats, end up with 53 seats in the United States Senate because they take Jim Justice's seat, which takes them to 50, and then they take Bernie Moreno's seat in Ohio, which takes them to 51. Tim Sheehy's seat takes them to 52. And Dave McCormick's seat takes them to 53. So they're at 53 in the Senate right now. Everything else is, it would be great, but it's gravy because Republicans have a solid, durable majority at 53 seats. And they're apparently going to retain the House in all likelihood as well. According to the Wall Street Journal late last night, in the House, Democrats' path to take back control narrowed as Republicans outperformed expectations on the strength of Trump's ability to make inroads among working-class Black and Latino voters, especially men, supplementing his support among white working-class voters. Democrats' hopes for a slew of pickups in California did not materialize, greatly tempering their hopes of flipping the House, which Republicans currently control 220 to 212 with 3 vacancies. Right now, very likely, the Republicans, again, retain the House majority. House Speaker Mike Johnson is likely ensconced in that place. Donald Trump likes Mike Johnson. Mike Johnson has a good relationship with Donald Trump. They will work well together. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell took a victory lap. He called it a hell of a good day and praised the high-caliber Republican candidates that he and other Senate leaders recruited to run. He deserves to take a victory lap for that because McConnell did have a much broader impact on picking Republicans in the primaries than he has in years prior. Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, he says everyone's fed up and fired up. They're fed up about the cost of living, the rising crime rates, the wide open border, the weakness on the world stage. So that means that Donald Trump is going to re-enter office with a triumvirate. He'll have the White House, he'll have the House, and he'll have the Senate. Which, by the way, is better than it would have been had he won re-election in 2020, actually. Because in 2020, as you recall, the Democrats actually had control of the United States Senate. So that would have changed things quite a bit. Meanwhile, we have new information from the CBS 2024 exit polls. The swings among pretty much every population are quite astounding. So Trump actually lost 1 point among whites. He gained 3 points among Black voters. He gained 27 points. There's a 27-point swing toward Donald Trump among Hispanic voters, according to that CBS 2024 exit poll. Why? The answer is because you know what Hispanic Americans want? The American dream. That would be the reason. The Hispanic Americans, you know what? They're traditionally minded when it comes to family and when it comes to things like gender. They like their church. They like their community. They like the American dream, the idea that they get to own property and then increase their wealth in this country. They want opportunity. It turns out that the normie American dream is still the thing most people pursue. It's not the Democratic version of the American dream, which is you can ship whoever you want with no consequences. Here's a government check. That American dream does not appeal to the vast majority of Americans. The American dream for the vast majority of Americans is the same thing it was for their parents and their grandparents. As I said yesterday on the show, 2024, revenge of the normies. Donald Trump picked up among every age group except for elderly voters. There's a 13-point swing from 2020 to 2024 among voters aged 18 to 29, largely among young men. He picked up 5 points among voters aged 30 to 44. Among those aged 45 to 64, the people who actually have lots of kids at this point, he picked up 9 points among that group. So between 30 and 64, he picked up 5 points and 9 points respectively in those various age groups. Harris did better among Democrats. Trump did 1 point better among Republicans. Republicans picked up 10 points with independents. Late-breaking voters broke toward Trump, despite all of the media's best attempts to turn Tony Hinchcliffe and his Puerto Rico joke into a national issue. It turns out most people looked at Kamala at the very end. They're like, you know what? There is nothing here except for a bad agenda, and we do not like it. Republicans picked up 5 points among men. They picked up 7 points among women. Remember that time that Kamala Harris was supposed to bring the brat, the energy, and the joy to the lady vote? Yeah, that didn't happen. And it also turns out that abortion, Americans are beginning to take abortion off the ballot as a chief federal issue. Why? Because that's precisely what happens under Dobbs. Dobbs relegates this not to the federal level, but to the state level. That means that if you have differing views about abortion, you vote to the state legislature based on that. You vote for a governor or a senator based on that in the state assembly. You don't vote for your senator or your congressperson or your president based on that because it is no longer a federal level issue thanks to Dobbs. So it actually takes a really controversial issue off the table for Republican politicians. The only places that Kamala Harris increased her turnout are high-income people who are white atheists. Those would be the places. That's it. Well, I mean, that's a shrinking base in the United States of America. It turns out that demographic revolution that the Democrats were talking about back in the 2012 era Turns out it doesn't work quite for you if you decide to treat everybody who's a member of a minority as though they are a San Francisco College of the Arts graduate making $120,000 a year for a job in graphic design. Turns out that ain't most Americans. How well did Donald Trump do in this election? Politico, New Jersey might be a swing state now. Woo! New Jersey. Kamala Harris won the state by 5. She won the state of New Jersey by 5 points. You want to know why? Well, blue-collar people live in New Jersey. Turns out there are a lot of New York expats who live in New Jersey. They don't like how New York is looking. Donald Trump outperformed, by the way, in New York as well. In fact, Donald Trump lost New York by fewer points than Kamala Harris lost Florida. Now, remember that time when this is supposed to wreck the economy, right? We had heard, remember that there was all the economists, they say that Donald Trump is going to radically increase prices. Donald Trump is going to be horrible for business. That had about as much credibility as the 51 intelligence experts who suggested the Hunter Biden laptop was not real. What happened with the Dow Jones Industrial Average? It surged to its biggest gain in 2 years. Bond yields and Bitcoin also posted sharp climbs. The markets are going full on in. Stephen Dayton says, quote, the markets are now trading full on Trump trade. All 3 major stock indices advanced to records. Trump predicted this. Again, this is not hard to see, okay? As the co-owner and co-founder of a large business, and we are now a large business here at the Daily Wire, co-owner and co-founder of that business, our business will do much better under Donald Trump. Not just because of the politics. It will do better because it is easier to do business in a country where you know the regulatory state is not going to randomly inject itself into the running of your business, where you know the tax rates aren't going to wildly change and then become confiscatory of all of the production. Like Donald Trump provides a stable, solid economy where the rules don't change except in the direction of loosening restrictions on business, and taxes ain't going to change unless they get lower. No wonder people are investing. No wonder people are tossing money into the stock market. The Dow Jones Industrial soared about 1,500 points. That is the biggest daily percentage gain since November 2022. The S&P 500 added 2.5%. The tech-heavy NASDAQ rose 3%. And these numbers are not a shock if you know anything about business. Of course that's the case, especially because Republicans are now going to be able to make permanent the Trump tax cuts, which were quite good for the economy. People forget, but if Kamala Harris had won, then the snapback to the prior tax rates probably would have happened, and that would have crimped the growth of the American economy. Instead, those tax cuts are now going to become permanent. They are. That's going to be like the first order of business for the American Congress and for Donald Trump, which is great. And business people are ecstatic about it. Jeff Bezos, the owner of the Washington Post, which is kind of one of his smaller holdings, obviously he's the owner of Amazon. He congratulated Trump on his victory, said big congratulations to our 45th and now 47th president on an extraordinary political comeback and decisive victory. No nation has bigger opportunities. Wishing Donald Trump all success in leading and uniting the America we all love. By the way, all the tech bros, all the ones who are pretending they liked Kamala, they were lying to themselves perhaps, but all of their businesses do better because Donald Trump is president of the United States. Okay, again, we are still awaiting Joe Biden arriving in the Rose Garden to give some sort of press conference. We'll bring you that as soon as he decides to dot her out. First, have you ever thought about what charities and causes the brands you give your hard-earned money to support? Pure Talk, my cell phone company, they support veterans. They're leading the fight against woke corporations. Let me tell you why. Pure Talk is veteran-led. They actually put their money where their mouth is. They've alleviated $10 million in veteran debt. They donate tens of thousands of dollars every month to help prevent veteran suicide. They just donated $50,000 to Mike Rowe Works, providing scholarships to veterans learning trades after active duty. Pure Talk gives you the same exact coverage as the big carriers, America's most dependable 5G network, for literally half the cost. Why are you still giving your money to Verizon, AT&T, T-Mobile, when there's a better option that actually supports our veterans? When you switch your cell phone service to Pure Talk on a qualifying plan, you'll get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. That means unlimited access to our incredible library of content. Am I Racist? What is a Woman? Mr. Bertram, Run I Fight? Plus uncensored ad-free daily shows and 1 year free of our new kids platform, BentKey. The only way you can get this special offer is by going to puretalk.com/Shapiro or call and mention my name. Stop overpaying for your cell phone plan. Go to puretalk.com/Shapiro today. Switch to a qualifying plan. Get 1 year free of Daily Wire Plus Insider. Also, you need to wake up feeling dialed in and ready for anything. I got to tell you, I'm really short on sleep, so thank God for Black Rifle Coffee. Head to blackriflecoffee.com right now. Shop 30% off for Veterans Week this November 8th through the 14th. Each of their coffees was roasted right here in the United States by a veteran-led team of experienced coffee graders obsessed with bringing you the perfect cup of coffee. Black Rifle Coffee Company takes pride in serving coffee and culture to people who love America. They have a huge selection of dark roast, light roast, everything in between. You also need to check out their gear. Black Rifle has a massive lineup of tees, hoodies, mugs, top shelf brewing gear, and more. Everything Black Rifle creates, from mugs to graphic tees, are made with patriotic designs you're not going to find anywhere else. A portion of every purchase you make with them goes to support veteran and first responder causes too. From getting funding and equipment to first responders and helping veterans fight cancer, your money goes a long way toward giving back to people who serve our nation. Head on over to blackriflecoffee.com. Save yourself 30% on America's coffee. That's blackriflecoffee.com to get 30% off. This show right now, it is fueled almost entirely by Black Rifle Coffee. Go check them out right now. blackriflecoffee.com. Okay, so late yesterday afternoon, Kamala Harris finally emerged in order to speak to the American people and to let them know her feelings about her loss. Again, we are still awaiting the president of the United States. Remember that guy? I know. We're still awaiting him. They're prepping his podium and everything. We'll get to him when he decides to walk out. The good news is that when he actually leaves the White House, the time from when he leaves the White House door to the time he gets to the podium is a solid couple of minutes, so he should have some notice. I mean, it's like 20 feet. But dude doesn't move particularly fast anymore. In any case, we'll get to him in a moment. But Kamala Harris, she emerged yesterday to explain that her heart is full. Her heart is full.
So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting.
I mean, she never really says what they're fighting for. And that, of course, is the Democratic secret. If you just say fight a lot, and then you say it about Donald Trump, then you think you're going to win. But the things they're fighting for are not exactly popular things, which is why the recriminations have broken out so loudly. The Democrats still trying to struggle for a way forward. She didn't give any help here. She didn't actually spell out what the agenda for Democrats moving forward is in any way, shape, or form, because she is a giant bag of nothing. She is a nothing bag, and that nothing bag is filled with wonderful nothings, like platitudes and truisms and nonsense. That is all she is. So here she was yesterday, talking, for example, about how she's conceding, but she's not conceding the fight that fueled the campaign.
While I concede this election, I do not concede the fight that fueled this campaign. The fight for freedom, for opportunity, for fairness, and the dignity of all people. A fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight I will never give up.
Okay, I don't even know what she's talking about. I mean, I do because I know what her agenda is. But all I'm hearing is the Charlie Brown teacher. Right? Because she's been saying, what does that mean? I will fight for American ideals. Could you spell that out? What are the American ideals that are at our best? Would that be like the boys in the girls' locker rooms? Are we talking here about Rachel Levine as Health and Human Services Undersecretary? Like, what exactly are we talking? Are we talking about like cutting the American military while attempting to make nice with pro-Hamas protesters? Which part of the American values are we? She's never going to fill that in because the minute she does, it's a problem. And she finished appropriately enough with some more platitudes. She talked about darkness and stars and darkness and stars, something like that.
The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars.
She's so enough.
I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time, but for the benefit of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light the light of optimism, of faith, of truth, and service.
Wow. So that's so moving. The light of a bright billion of stars, nay, trillion of stars, nay, bajillion of stars. I think I've heard this before. Wasn't this George H.W. Bush's 1,000 points of light thing? Except that actually had a policy proposal attached. Here she's just talking. She sounds like some of the worst dialogue from Rings of Power. Honest to goodness, that's what it sounds like. She sounds like she was in the writer's room for Rings of Power and just started cribbing off their notes. So I think one of the reasons that you're not seeing kind of the fury that you might normally see when Donald Trump wins an election is because no one was all that invested in Kamala Harris. How could you be? How would you be invested emotionally in Kamala Harris? As a giant nothing burger of a human, as an NPC, what exactly about Kamala Harris was the draw? The answer is that the draw was that she was not the doddering old man, that she was not the dead guy. That was the only draw. And it turns out that's not much of a draw. So when Donald Trump wins the popular and the electoral college, everybody's like, well, Barack Obama, who's just as responsible for this loss as Kamala Harris, as we will see, Team Biden is actually blaming Barack Obama, among others, for the loss. He and his wife have written a statement on Twitter about the 2024 election. I won't do the Obama voice for all of it, but I'll do it for the very beginning. So just a warning. Over the last few weeks, through election day, millions of Americans cast their votes, not just for president, but for leaders at every level. Now, the results are in, and we want to congratulate President Trump and Senator Vance on their victory. This is obviously not the outcome we'd hoped for, given our profound disagreements with the Republican ticket on a whole host of issues. But living in democracy is about recognizing that our point of view won't always win out, and being willing to accept the peaceful transfer of power. Now, here is the thing. Former President Obama. He finishes this statement with this. The good news is these problems are solvable, but only if we listen to each other, only if we abide by the core constitutional principles and democratic norms that made this country great. It's this sort of fib that makes me insane. Barack Obama did not care one iota for the constitutional structure. This is a man who, when stymied by Congress, said that he had a pen and a phone and he was going to use them. Barack Obama led off the era of things like killing the judicial filibuster. It was Barack Obama who thwarted the comity of the races in the United States in a unique way. It was Barack Obama who alienated American from American. This is in my lifetime. He made it so much worse. By every available polling statistic, he made it worse. When he says we need to listen to each other, Barack Obama has never listened to anything except the sound of his own voice. So when he says, this is a campaign that termed Donald Trump Hitlerian fascist evil. And now you're saying that you want to get together and have a listen-in conversation? Well, what I really get the feeling is that now that you're out of power, you want Donald Trump to listen to you after spending years ripping on everybody on the other side of the aisle. And that is not how it works. That is not how it works. Well, the weeping, the wailing, the gnashing of teeth has begun. And so if we're here to enjoy just a little Schadenfreude, well, then we may as well do that. Sunny Hostin of The View, the women of The View decided they were all going to wear dresses of mourning yesterday. They wore black into work at The View yesterday, which was enjoyable and also slimming. So Sunny Hostin lost it yesterday, talked about how she is at risk. Her daughter is at risk. She and her daughter live in New York. Nothing is going to change for them, except crime rates might get worse because it's still Democrat governed. She's a very rich woman. But here we go with this hysteria. Oh, sorry, we'll get to that. We'll get to Sunny Hostin in a moment. First, Dark Joe is coming out. Dark Brandon, here he comes. He's going to talk.
Thank you. Please. Thank you. Good to see this cabinet and the staff together here.
He's so pleased she lost. He can't even contain himself. Look at him. He's like, oh, what a great day.
Thank you. Please. Thank you.
He doesn't even feel emotionally divided about this.
Yeah. It's good to see you all. Particularly good to see my granddaughter sitting in the front row here. Hi, Finn. How are you, honey? For over 200 years, America has carried on the greatest experiment in self-government in the history of the world. And that's not hyperbole. That's a fact. Where the people The people vote and choose their own leaders, and they do it peacefully. And we're in a democracy. The will of the people always prevails. Yesterday, I spoke with President-elect Trump to congratulate him on his victory. And I assured him that I'd direct my entire administration to work with his team to ensure a peaceful and orderly transition. That's what the American people deserve. Yesterday, I also spoke with Vice President Harris. She's been a partner and a public servant. She ran an inspiring campaign, and everyone got to see something that I learned early on to respect so much, her character. She has a backbone like a ramrod. She has great character, true character. She gave her whole heart and effort, and she and her entire team should be proud of the campaign they ran. You know, the struggle for the soul of America, since our very founding, has always been an ongoing debate and still vital today. I know for some people, it's a time for victory, to state the obvious. For others, it's a time of loss. Campaigns are contests of competing visions. The country chooses one or the other. We accept the choice the country made. I've said many times, you can't love your country only when you win. You can't love your neighbor only when you agree. Something I hope we can do, no matter who you voted for, is see each other not as adversaries, but as fellow Americans. Bring down the temperature. I also hope we can lay to rest the question about the integrity of the American electoral system. It is honest, it is fair, and it is transparent. And it can be trusted, win or lose. I also hope we can restore the respect for all our election workers who busted their necks and took risks at the outset. We should thank them. Thank them for staffing voting sites, counting the votes, and protecting the very integrity of the election. Many of them are volunteers who do it simply out of love for their country. And as they did their duty as citizens, I will do my duty as president. I'll fulfill my oath, and I will honor the Constitution. On January 20th, we'll have a peaceful transfer of power here in America. To all our incredible staff, supporters, cabinet members, all the people who've been hanging out with me for the last 4 years, God love you, as my mother would say. Thank you so much. You put so much into the past 4 years. I know it's a difficult time. You're hurting. I hear you and I see you. But don't forget all that we accomplished. It's been a historic presidency. Not because I'm president, because what we've done, what you've done. A presidency for all Americans. Much of the work we've done is already being felt by the American people, but the vast majority of it will not be felt over the next 10 years. We have legislation we passed that's just only now just really kicking in. We're going to see over $1 trillion worth of infrastructure work done, changing people's lives in rural communities and communities that are in real difficulty because it takes time to get it done. And so much more it's going to take time, but it's there. The road ahead is clear, assuming we sustain it. There's so much we can get done and will get done based on the way the legislation was passed. And it's truly historic. You know, we're leaving behind the strongest economy in the world. I know people are still hurting, but things are changing rapidly. Together, we've changed America for the better. Now we have 74 days to finish the term, our term. Let's make every day count. That's the responsibility we have to the American people. Look, folks, you all know it in your lives. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. Setbacks are unavoidable, but giving up is unforgivable. We all get knocked down. But the measure of our character, as my dad would say, is how quickly we get back up. Remember, A defeat does not mean we are defeated. We lost this battle. The America of your dreams is calling for you to get back up. That's the story of America for over 240 years and counting. It's a story for all of us, not just some of us. The American experiment endures. We're going to be okay, but we need to stay engaged. We need to keep going. And above all, we need to keep the faith. I'm so proud to have worked with all of you. I really mean it. I sincerely mean it. God bless you all. God bless America. And may God protect our troops. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
That is the President of the United States. This is the happiest day of his life since he won election in 2020. He is so happy. You can see it written across his face. He is so delighted she lost. Because if she had won, he would just be a transitional president. Now he gets to claim that it was all her fault. Look at him. He's sitting there. He's loving it. He's pumping his fist, thumbs up, pointing to people. That dude has more mojo today than he had any time during the campaign. It is amazing. That was the President of the United States doddering Joe Biden, Dark Brandon out. Really solid stuff there from the President of the United States. Maybe he'll run again. Who knows? Anything is possible. So, again, that is Joe Biden. He's very happy. He's very happy. We'll get to all the recriminations and the reason that he's happy in just one moment. First, no one wants to think about debt, but here's the cold, hard truth. Many of us will get deeper in debt during the holidays. Last year, and this is staggering, half of American consumers took on debt just to pay for the holidays. Here's the thing. It's never too early to start planning your way out. My friends at PDS Debt can help you with a personalized solution made just for you. If you're making payments every month on your debt and watching your balances stay exactly the same, that ends right now. PDS has solutions specifically designed to help you get out of this cycle. And unlike the government's debt relief programs, everyone with 10 grand or more in eligible debt qualifies. No minimum credit score required. That is correct. Bad and fair credit accepted. They'll help you save more while paying off your debt in a fraction of the time. I've seen what debt can do to families, especially around the holidays. That's why I trust PDS Debt to help my listeners find real solutions that actually work. Start planning today. Get a free debt analysis right now at pdsdebt.com/Ben. It only takes 30 seconds. That's pdsdebt.com/Ben, pdsdebt.com/Ben. Again, getting into debt, really easy. Getting out of debt, a lot harder. That's why you need my friends over at PDS Debt. Go give them a call right now. Check them out, pdsdebt.com/Ben. Also, friends and family gatherings for the holidays always bring up memories of holidays past, moments you wish you could go back and relive. My family has gone through this. Last Hanukkah, we actually found old VHS tapes of previous celebrations that we couldn't even watch anymore because no one has a VCR. This is what I'm telling you, Legacy Box is the best gift you can get anyone in your family. They're giving my listeners exclusive early access to their biggest deal of the year, digitizing your memories for just $9 per tape. That is right, $9 to preserve and share your precious moments. VHS, VHS-C, High 8, film reels, over 12 other types of analog media. You're saving over $15 per item. Here's what's important. When you digitize your memories right now, Legacy Box will digitize and send all your memories back in the cloud to access easily by Christmas, so you can relive them with your families just in time for the holidays. These fellas know what they're doing. We know them. We know them personally. After 10 years in the business, Legacy Box is the world's largest digitizer. They've helped over 1 million families relive their wedding days, chaotic childhood Christmases, even road trips to Yellowstone. You've heard me talk about Legacy Box all year. Now is absolutely the best time to digitize your memories. This $9 deal will not last long. Head on over to legacybox.com/Shapiro for early access to their best deal of the year. Don't wait. Secure your digitized memories by Christmas at legacybox.com/Shapiro. That's legacybox.com/Shapiro. Okay, so back to the Schadenfreude. So Sunny Hostin over at The View, all the ladies wearing black, which is both slimming and makes them look like idiots because why are they in mourning? But here is Sunny Hostin, an extraordinarily rich woman, complaining that her life will now be a living hell. The Handmaid's Tale has begun.
I worry not about myself, actually. I don't worry about my station in life. I worry about the working class. I worry about my mother, a retired teacher. I worry about our elderly and their Social Security and their Medicare. I worry about my children's future, especially my daughter, who now has less rights than I have. And I remember my father telling me many, many years ago that I was the first person in his family to enjoy full civil rights. And now I have less civil rights than I had when he told me that. So again, I'm profoundly disturbed that the 14th Amendment of the Constitution did not prevent someone who participated in an insurrection from becoming president of the United States. I think that going forward, the convicted felon box on employment applications better be taken off, because if you can be the president of the United States, then you should not be prevented from employment in this country, because I remember applying for my jobs as a federal prosecutor, and there was a box for convicted felons.
Well,
and so that box better be taken off. And I think our healthcare system is now at risk. I think
no fluoride for anyone.
Yeah, economists have made clear that he's going to increase the debt by $7.75 trillion. I'm worried about mass deportation and internment camps, and I'm also worried about Elon Musk warning Americans to prepare for temporary hardship.
Oh my goodness, she is just too much, and you have to enjoy it. Those aren't even the best moments. Joy Behar, again, of The View, she shows up and she says, "You know what we really need? The only way to fix this is censorship. You knew they were going to do this, folks. You knew it was coming. But here's the deal: you ain't going to get it because you lost. If you'd won, you might have gotten your censorship, but you lost, so you ain't getting it." Here's Joy Behar doing her best.
In Finland, kids in nursery school are learning to discern between fake news and real news. Yeah. They should be teaching that in this country.
Yes.
Teach children tolerance. Teach them to think critically.
Well, it would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is D.C. and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
Oh, man, they are so mad. They are so angry. Whoopi's just sitting there, presiding over all of it. Man, the ladies of The View. Meanwhile, Claire McCaskill broke into the ads on MSNBC. She actually started crying over Kamala Harris. We found the one person in America who cares about Kamala Harris's candidacy. Even Doug was celebratory. Doug's like, "Man, I don't have to live in Washington, D.C. anymore. That's great. I'm going back to Beverly Hills. I'm going to, go find a nanny somewhere." Hey, here's Claire McCaskill.
For her to be selected as vice president after what I think she would tell you was a very disappointing presidential race, where I think she kind of lost her footing and was listening too much to consultants, frankly, and it didn't really exude who she was. And then to be vice president and to step into the most difficult situation in the world, where she had to be completely loyal to Joe Biden and respectful of the fact that he had chosen her, but yet maneuver in a situation. I mean, such political skill. It is just inspiring. People who don't understand what she had to do to get to this moment. Mm-hmm. And so I'm just very proud of her.
By the way, what did she have to do to get to this moment? She had to fail up. So she had to work so hard to be a terrible candidate who got picked as vice president, become a terrible vice president who only became a nominee because the president died. So much. James Carville also had the ads. Just enjoy. Just take it in, folks. Just this thing, it's over. This one is not overflowing. We had to empty it out just before the show, but we've had a serious plumbing issue at the Daily Wire, because we have many of these around the office, like many of these leftist tear tumblers, and it turns out that you can't turn off the leftist tears. I mean, they are just copious amounts of tears. It's like Noah's flood around here. Anyway, here we go. James Carville.
So I'm going to I have to reevaluate. I'm sure I'll come up with something to make me feel good again. But right now, today, it's hard. I'll be honest with you. The thing is that I look across this country and tens of millions of people fell for this. And it's depressing. But I'll snap out of it, but I'm in a very, very dark tunnel right now.
Oh, well, that's sad. That's very, very sad for the Harry Potter character. Meanwhile, here is Rachel Maddow. She has come up with her solution, and it's that apparently Americans hate multiracial, multi-ethnic democracy, which is weird since Donald Trump won 46% of Hispanics, according to the latest exit polls. 46%. That is the highest percentage of Hispanics ever won by a Republican Party candidate for the presidency. Donald Trump won well over 20% of the black male vote. In the swing states, Donald Trump won about 40% of the Jewish vote. Donald Trump won heavy shares of the Muslim vote. So clearly the solution, the answer to Rachel Maddow, white lady, is people clearly hate multiracial, multi-ethnic, working-class democracy. Man, you got to have your head so far up your ass to believe this, but, Rachel Maddow, more flexible than previously thought.
We now are just another one in the list of countries that has decided to, hey, what the heck? Let's try the strongman thing. Let's let democracy go. Let's put in an all-powerful guy instead, see how it goes. There are many more countries in the world governed by that kind of a system than there are governed by ours. We are the only 248-year-old multiracial, pluralistic democracy in the world. And shall we keep it? A lot of our fellow Americans say we shouldn't. Now we know. Now we know for sure.
You lost an election. They voted against you. I love that. She lost 51% of the vote. And I guess democracy is over because you lost an election. So the Electoral College was bad. What happens when he wins the popular vote? That's also bad now, right? Who's anti-democracy now, lady? Meanwhile, Jimmy Kimmel, alleged former comedian. This is late night TV. Okay, late night TV last night was a mausoleum. Late night TV, it was like a funeral parlor. And here was Jimmy Kimmel. Remember, he's supposed to make you laugh for a living. That is his job, after all. And here he was last night, basically preaching a sermon over the body of Kamala Harris. Goodness gracious, Jimmy Kimmel.
Let's be honest, it was a terrible night last night. It was a terrible night for women, for children, for the hundreds of thousands of hardworking immigrants who make this country go, for healthcare, for our climate, for science, for journalism, for justice, for free speech. It was a terrible night for poor people, for the middle class, for seniors who rely on Social Security, for our allies in Ukraine, for NATO, for the truth and democracy and decency. And it was a terrible night for everyone who voted against him. And guess what? It was a bad night for everyone who voted for him, too. You just don't realize it yet. And most of all, it was an absolute disaster of a night for Melania. But it was a really good night for Putin and for polio and for lovable billionaires like Elon Musk and the bros up in Silicon Valley and all the wriggling brainworms who sold what was left of their souls to bow down to Donald Trump.
Oh, I bathe in his tears. Heat them for me, servants. I bathe in those tears. Jimmy Kimmel. I love that. It was a terrible night for everyone, except for the majority of the population who think you are a schmuck, Jimmy Kimmel. Destroying late night TV one episode at a time. So maybe you flipped over to CBS and you decided to see if Stephen Colbert was going to be wrong. Stephen Colbert was not going to be funny. He was going to outcompete Jimmy Kimmel to see who could cry harder. And guess what? It's funny to me. I enjoyed it. Here was Stephen Colbert.
Hey there. How are you doing?
Hi.
If you watch the
I'm
show
great.
regularly, I'm guessing you're not doing great. Yeah, me neither.
I don't.
You know, today...
I'm good.
Some people said to me, sorry you have to do a show tonight. Which is nice of them to say, but...
Me too.
I don't have to do a show. I get to do a show tonight. I'm so grateful to be with all of these talented people. Those people over here, those people that you'll never see, with the audience and the Ed Sullivan, with you people at home. Because, especially at times like this, what do we most want to be? Not alone. So thanks for being here. We're going to do a comedy show. It's a comedy show. We're going to do some jokes in just a minute because that's what we do. And I'll let you in on a little secret. No one gets into this business because everything in their life worked out great. So we're built for rough roads.
Built for rough roads, Stephen Colbert. Oh, I enjoy. Oh, so good. So good. I'm not tired of the winning it. I'm not. Folks, America elected Donald Trump as the 47th president. We're marking the moment with a 47 of our own. Use code TRUMP. Get 47% off your new annual Daily Wire Plus membership. Get unfiltered, ad-free daily shows from the most trusted voices in conservative media. Enjoy our full catalog of entertainment, including the box office smash #1 documentary of 2024, Am I Racist? Plus, the breaking news, live coverage from where the story is unfolding, During Trump's historic comeback, Daily Wire was live from West Palm Beach at Trump's campaign headquarters, even at Howard University, while Kamala's hopes and the crowd's joy slipped away. Oh, was it delicious. There's never been a better time to join us. Use code TRUMP for 47% off at dailywire.com/subscribe. Well, joining us on the line is Tim Pool, the only man who wears a bigger kippah than I do. Oh, no, it's just a beanie. He's not Jewish. Anyway, Tim, how's everything going? Obviously, he's the host of Timcast IRL. You know, watching people like Stephen Colbert and Jimmy Kimmel break down live on television, it's been pleasurable. What's been your favorite moment since the victory of Donald Trump?
Oh, wow. They're already protesting. The corporate press and many of these leftist liberal outlets are calling this America's Judgment Day. We've elected fascism. And I love what you're mentioning about these late night hosts acting like everyone's suffering. Oh, the poor, the working class. The poor and the working class voted for Donald Trump. Kamala Harris actually won the wealthy, and the working class voted for Donald Trump. Minorities voted for Donald Trump. The popular mandate is with Donald Trump. And I was shocked to find this morning, and I'm very proud, my Democrat neighborhood in Chicago voted for Donald Trump, and that surprised me. The Chicago Sun-Times showed the map. It's gradually flipped from blue to deep red. I shouldn't say deep red, but just all red. And, you know, I don't know if that's my influence, but I do think it shows where my values come from. The people I grew up with were working class people in a blue city that were tired of Democrat failure, and now they're voting for Donald Trump.
I mean, Tim, that is the story of the election. Here are some stats for you that are amazing. New Jersey, Trump lost by 16 in 2020. He lost by 5 in 2024. It's an 11-point pickup for Trump in New Jersey. He lost California by 29 in 2020. He lost by 17 in 2024. That's a 12-point pickup in California. He lost by 23 in 2020 in New York. He lost by 12 in 2024. That is an 11-point pickup in New York. In Illinois, the state you're talking about, Trump lost by 17 in 2020. He lost by 8 in 2024, a 9-point pickup for Donald Trump. The fact of the matter is, you know, some of this is the magic of Donald Trump. Obviously, he's a unique figure. He's the most important figure of the 21st century in the United States and internationally. He just is. Whether you like it or not, that's the reality of the situation. Also, the Democrats are so terrible at this. I mean, so truly terrible. So you're watching the recriminations break out. Lots of screaming and yelling. And we get to stand on the side and watch, you know, the clowns hit each other with cakes and everything. And it's really fun. But do you think the Democratic Party has a path back? What does that path look like?
I don't know. Tulsi Gabbard left, right? I supported Tulsi Gabbard in 2019 and 2020. I thought Donald Trump should have brought her on back then. And I'm fairly moderate. RFK Jr. Joining Trump, this made an easy path for me to convince all of my anti-Trumper, never-Trumper friends and family, don't vote for Donald Trump, vote for RFK Jr. and vote for Tulsi Gabbard, because if you vote for Kamala, you're getting Dick and Liz Cheney. That made it relatively easy. Now what we're seeing with all these talk shows and all these pundits, they're saying it was white women who betrayed us. I can't remember who said it. Black women were trying to save, I think it was Sonny Hawson, black women were trying to save the country. It's showing us that in only a few days afterwards, they're doubling and tripling down on rhetoric and ideas that do not work. And in fact, I got to say this, one of my favorite jokes that I saw on Twitter following the election was, women buy milk and eggs more than they get abortions. Yet they're still continually doubling down on these failed ideas that people do not like. I hate to say it, I'd love to see a Democratic Party that moderates and realizes where they were wrong. A lot of Democrats are trying. Bernie Sanders is trying. They are insulting and attacking Bernie Sanders because he said Democrats have abandoned the white working class and now the Latino working class and the black working class. And the response from, I think it was Jen Rubin, was no, the problem is white men blaming others. They refuse to accept the failure and the direction they've gone has lost in this election. So, hey, you know what I think? If this path continues over the next 4 years, if J.D. Vance, and I believe he probably will end up the next nominee, at least for now, I think he has a chance at winning Illinois. I think he's a fantastic VP already. He was a fantastic candidate. And with Illinois within 8 points of a Republican victory, I think J.D. Vance would close the gap unless Democrats figure out they've gone insane and try and solve that problem.
You know, Tim, it is a massive problem for them. It's also a massive problem because the truth is that if you look at JD or if you look at Trump's economic agenda, their economic agenda is not a sort of like gigantically pro-free market agenda. So, for example, both JD and Trump have endorsed the entitlement state. Like they've not really talked about paring back the entitlement state in any serious way. They might talk about some mean-tested welfare programs. That's about it. Right? Both JD and Trump have talked about subsidies to particular parts of the country. Right? So they're sort of occupying the middle space on the economic spectrum. It's not just that they occupy the right, where they're very pro-entrepreneurship. They're also occupying the middle space where they're not anti-redistributionism to a certain extent. And so that's making it very awkward for Democrats to even sort of move into that space. When you have a party that is including, as you mentioned, people like Elon Musk on the one hand, uber capitalist, obviously, uber free market guy. And then on the other hand, you have people like you or Batya Ungar Sargon, people who are sort of more interventionist, economically speaking. That's a pretty broad coalition.
Yeah, what I find truly fascinating as well, Democrats seem to be addicted to our only political attacks are everything they do is wrong. And my favorite line right now, with Donald Trump saying we're going to have deportations. Let's think about what mass deportations is saying. There are people who entered the country illegally. We're going to give them a free ride home. They say that's fascism. They say that's rounding people up like Hitler in concentration camps. And I'm sitting here being like, a free ride back to their home because they came here illegally sounds like the nicest thing we can do in solving this problem. But instead of saying, you know what, Donald Trump has a point, we can't sustain mass unchecked illegal immigration, and trying to offer an alternative, which they like an actual argument, which they don't have, they just say Trump's Hitler. Well, at a certain point, people say, yeah, that means nothing to me. Calling me racist means nothing. Calling me misogynist means nothing. We're looking at now, I think this is the third presidential election with Trump, where he said, hey, I have a solution to this problem you're concerned about. And the Democrats have just said, that means you're Hitler. At a certain point, people say, I recognize Trump is right about this problem. You've offered me nothing. He's made me an offer. I guess I have to go with Trump.
Well, that's Tim Pool. You can go check him out over on Twitter at Timcast and check out his show, of course, Timcast IRL. Tim, really appreciate the time. And man, it's going to be fun going forward to see what happens next.
Thanks for having me.
Alrighty, so meanwhile, as we say, the recriminations among the Democrats, they've broken out, and I'm here for all of them. The Harris campaign is now going after anyone who criticizes them. So according to, I believe this is New York Magazine, Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign sharply criticized Philadelphia Democratic Party Chairman Bob Brady after he laid blame with them for a lower than expected turnout in the city. Brendan McPhillips, senior advisor to the Harris campaign in Pennsylvania, said in their statement that the team, quote, knocked more than 2 million doors in the weekend leading up to Election Day, which is 2 million more doors than Bob Brady's organization can claim to have knocked on. So they're yelling at each other. Meanwhile, Team Harris is blaming Joe Biden. They're saying that they're angry that Joe Biden refused to leave earlier. One Harris aide said, quote, we ran the best campaign we could considering Joe Biden was president. Joe Biden is the singular reason Kamala Harris and Democrats lost tonight. Another Harris aide said it was clear Biden should have made a graceful exit much sooner, allowing Democrats to hold a primary they believed Harris would have won. So resounding was the thumping that some of the party's next generation leaders were signaling the need for a deep autopsy of the party's failures to stop the red wave. Meanwhile, David Plouffe was leading that particular campaign. He then, by the way, actually went off of X. He just left Twitter entirely after this comment. Quote, it was a privilege to spend the last 100 days with Kamala Harris and the amazing staff led by Jen O'Malley Dillon, who left it all on the field for their country. We dug out of a deep hole, but not enough. A devastating loss. Thanks for being in the arena, all of you. So it's that line, we dug out of a deep hole, but not enough. So that is Plouffe saying, we did our best to shun the Biden people, and it's their fault we lost. And everybody in Team Biden is like, what the F, dude? We left, and you continued to run this thing into the ground. You know, Alex Thompson of Politico, he points out, or of Axios rather, he points out that the Democrats are blaming Joe Biden as well. You want to know why Joe Biden was happy earlier this day in the Rose Garden? Because he's so happy she lost. He's so happy because it means that all the people who hated him and who dumped him over, they are losers. And according to Joe Biden, he beat Trump, so he's a winner, and they're losers. That's why he's happy. Here's Alex Thompson having Team Harris blame Team Biden.
What you're saying, Karen, is part of the reason why a lot of Democrats are very angry at Joe Biden tonight, because they feel that the decision to run again when he was 80 years old was very reckless and a very risky decision, a risky gamble that he lost. And then he basically swapped out, and he chose Kamala Harris, not just in 2020, but then he chose her, basically gave her a $100 million head start when he endorsed her and gave her his campaign. Yeah. And in some ways, while a lot of people want to say, well, Kamala was bad in an interview, and I just mentioned it before, it was bad in an interview with The View. She was bad in an interview with 60 Minutes. There are a lot of Democrats that are actually much more angry at Joe Biden tonight.
Yeah, I think that's, I'd just say, yes, I was expecting that because some felt like if he'd have dropped out sooner and she would have ascended as the nominee, she would have also had more time.
So again, they're just blaming Biden for her losing, but they could have left him in. He could have lost. They could have gone with the next one. Simone Sanders taking the other side of that argument. So she is a former Kamala Harris staffer. And she's like, well, they did force Joe Biden out, I noticed.
And again, the people that said Joe Biden was the problem. Where's my camera?
He was not the solution. He was not the solution.
I will just note that it is probably not the best idea that Democrats orchestrated a very public stab fest, a proverbial stabbing in the front of the sitting president of the United States of America, and then didn't use him in his hometown of Scranton, Pennsylvania.
Okay, she ain't wrong either. So it's fun to watch them go at each other. Now, the real internecine warfare begins. Why exactly did they lose? Well, the truth is, it's pretty obvious why they lost, and you can tell because of how Donald Trump ran. Donald Trump ran as a policy moderate who wasn't a nut job when it came to things like are boys girls or not. A whole article in the New York Times today called How Trump Won, How Harris Lost. And one of the things that they point out is that there was an ad that the Trump campaign tried out, and that turned out to be the most successful ad of the campaign. And it was specifically about the trans issue. According to this piece from the New York Times, about a week after the September debate, Trump started spending heavily on a television ad that hammered Harris for her position on a seemingly obscure topic, the use of taxpayer funds to fund surgeries for transgender inmates. Harris said in that 2019 clip used in the ad, quote, every transgender inmate in the prison system would have access. It was a big bet. Trump was leading on the two most salient issues in the race, the economy and immigration, yet here he was intentionally changing the subject. But the ad, with its vivid tagline, Kamala is for they, them, President Trump is for you, broke through in Mr. Trump's testing to an extent that stunned some of his aides. So they poured more money into the ads, running them during football games. That prompted Charlemagne the God, host of the Breakfast Club, to express exasperation. His on-air complaints then gave the Trump team fodder for more commercials. The Charlemagne ad ranked as one of the Trump team's most effective 30-second spots. It shifted the race 2.7 percentage points in Trump's favor after viewers watched it. So again, Trump just ran against the social leftism of a disconnected elite class. All they would have to do is jettison that, and maybe they're competitive again, but they don't know which direction to go. So Matt Iglesias, who's been a guest on the Sunday Special before, he's sort of a more old-line liberal, I would say. He put out what he thought was the vision for common sense Democrats. Let me read you what he says Democrats should do. It's 9 points. You'll notice something about them. 1, economic self-interest for the working class includes robust economic growth. 2, climate change is a reality to manage, not a hard limit to obey. 3, the government should prioritize the interests of normal people over those of people who engage in antisocial conduct. 4, we should in fact judge people by the content of their character rather than by the color of their skin. 5, while race is a social construct, biological sex is not. 6, academic and nonprofit staffers do not occupy a unique position of virtue relative to private sector workers. 7, politeness is a virtue, but obsessive language policing alienates normal people and degrades the quality of thinking. 8, we're equal in the eyes of God, but the American government can and should prioritize the interests of American citizens. 9, public services must be run in the interests of their users, not their providers. Now, if you nodded every one of those, it's because they're all conservative principles. So what Matt Iglesias is saying is, if you wish to not lose like Democrats, you might want to run like Republicans. That happens to be correct. And there are some in the Democratic Party who are saying just that. Charlemagne the God, for one, he says, well, maybe that Democrats are just out of touch. Maybe they need to get back in touch.
Once again, don't just chalk it up to racism, sexism. Okay, I believe those things play a role, but at the end of the day, it's the economy, stupid. And Democrats might just be really out of touch with what everyday Americans are feeling.
That is correct. Meanwhile, for example, New York Democrat Richie Torres, he is saying that the far left helped make Donald Trump happen. He said on X, quote, Donald Trump has no greater friend than the far left, which has managed to alienate historic numbers of Latinos, blacks, Asians, and Jews from the Democratic Party with absurdities like defund the police or from the river to the sea or Latin X. There's more to lose than there is to gain politically from pandering to a far left that is more representative of Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok than it is of the real world. The working class is not buying the ivory-towered nonsense the far left is selling. Richie Torres happens to be correct. Okay, but then from the left, you have Bernie Sanders from the top rope saying that they need to appeal to the pro-Gaza crowd. Quote, it should come as no surprise that the Democratic Party, which has abandoned working class people, would find that the working class has abandoned them. First, it was the white working class. Now, it is Latino and black workers as well. While the Democratic leadership defends the status quo, the American people are angry and want change, and they're right. Today, while the rich are doing phenomenally well, 60% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck. They have more income and wealth inequality than ever before. But then, he can't stop himself. He can't stop himself. And he has to go to the far left again. So if he just stuck to the kind of two Americas, John Edwards, we need more economic redistributionism, I don't think that would work. That's a more plausible argument than the social leftism, but then he can't stop himself. Quote, today, despite strong opposition from a majority of Americans, we continue to spend billions funding the extremist Netanyahu government's all-out war against the Palestinian people. Right? That is his sop to a bunch of young Gaza protesters. If Bernie Sanders had been the actual candidate, he would have gotten skunked by Donald Trump. Skunked by him. Which is precisely why the Democratic Party in 2020 stopped him from being the nominee. Bernie Sanders is a befuddled old socialist. Most old socialists end up on the government dime. Very few of them end up with a lake house and millions of worshipful followers. But it's going to be fun to watch the radical and the normie wings of the Democratic Party bang it out against one another. That'll be really, really fun. The sort of traditional radicals, however, they have their solution. And their solution is obvious. You blame the people. So Media Matters is Angelo Carasone. Media Matters, the worst organization in America, bar none, terrible organization. Their entire goal is to just take shows like this one off the air because they disagree. Angelo Carasone, he says that the Trump voters don't believe in democracy, which is weird since they represent 51% of the American public at a minimum.
But at its core, this is a discussion about democracy. I'm not so blinded to think that they all are deeply pro-democracy. Many of them don't believe in democracy as a principle, and they want something more autocratic and authoritarian. But there's another part, a much larger part, that actually believe that a vote for Donald Trump is a vote for democracy because they have validated and internalized the idea that there's an anti-democratic secret cabal that is actually preventing their desires and exercise of democratic power from being implemented and put in place, and that only Trump can restore their power.
I mean, they're right about that. There is an anti-democratic secret cabal. It's called the administrative state, and it's the unelected legacy media. That would be the machine that he's talking about right there. W. Kamau Bell over at CNN, he's saying the same thing, that voters just ran toward racism and misogyny. Again, it's going to be, this is MSNBC rather, it's going to be fun to watch all of these forces battle one another for supremacy in the failing Democratic Party.
Donald Trump has been impeached twice. He was indicted 4 times, convicted on 34 felony counts. He's been found liable of sexual abuse. His campaign spewed a lot of racism, misogyny, xenophobia, but voters seem to overlook all of that.
Respectfully, I don't think voters overlooked it. I think voters ran towards it. I think voters loved it. I think we have found out after much want for the contrary, we live in a right-wing country. This is what it is.
Hey, well, guys, I hope you have fun storming the castle with your motley crew of radical racialists and radical socialists. Really enjoy yourself. Alrighty, folks, in just a moment, we're going to be talking about the cases against Donald Trump being dropped and left losing their minds over that. If you're not a member, become a member. Use code Shapiro. Check out for 2 months free on all annual plans. Click that link in the description and join us.